They laughed at him every day at the office. Not the loud, cruel kind that drew attention, no. This was worse. It was casual laughter. Comfortable laughter. The kind that had become part of the office's daily rhythm, like the hum of the air conditioner or the clatter of keyboards. Michael Turner heard it the moment he stepped through the glass doors of Creston and Blythe Consulting. "Good morning, Professor," someone muttered as he passed. Another chuckle followed. Someone else smirked. Michael adjusted the strap of his one laptop bag and smiled politely, the way he always did. He had learned early that reacting only made it worse. Silence, at least, made it predictable. He walked to his desk, the same corner desk he had occupied for 2 years now. Far from the windows. Far from management. Close enough to hear everything. Foreshadowing hid in that placement. Michael was a junior operations analyst, the lowest rung in a firm obsessed with confidence and polish. He didn't dress the part. His jackets were always a year too old, his shoes carefully cleaned but clearly tired. He spoke slowly, choosing his words with care, which in this office translated to not sharp enough. By 9:15 a.m., the laughter returned. A meeting had started. Michael sat quietly, notebook open, pen already moving. When he raised a hand to contribute, someone leaned over and whispered loudly, "Here we go again." Laughter. The manager waved him off. "Let's keep things moving." Michael lowered his hand without protest, still writing. Foreshadowing lived in that notebook, pages and pages of neat handwriting no one ever asked to see. Flashback flickered, brief and sharp. Michael at 15, standing in a crowded classroom, answering a question carefully, thoroughly. Laughter then too. His teacher sigh. His father later that evening, sitting beside him on the thin mattress they shared. Noise fades, his father had said. Skill doesn't. Back in the office, lunchtime arrived. Michael ate alone, as usual, scrolling through reports on his phone instead of joining the others. Across the room, Daniel, senior consultant, loud laugh, polished shoes, mimicked Michael's careful tone while retelling a joke. The table roared. Michael looked up just once. Not angry. Observant. Foreshadowing tightened here. By evening, as Coworkers packed up, Michael stayed. He always did. Not to impress anyone. Not to be noticed. He waited until the office emptied, then reopened files everyone else had closed. He corrected small errors. Adjusted projections. Ran scenarios no one had asked for. Outside, the city buzzed. Inside, Michael walked in silence, unaware that the laughter that followed him every day was quietly setting the stage for something that would soon leave the entire office speechless. They laughed at him every day at the office, but what no one noticed was how carefully Michael Turner watched everything around him. By Wednesday, tension crept into Creston and Blythe Consulting like a low electrical hum. A major client presentation was scheduled for Friday morning, one that could determine whether the firm kept a multi-million-dollar contract or lost it to competitors circling like vultures. The pressure showed. Daniel snapped at interns. Senior consultants whispered behind glass walls. The manager, Olivia Brooks, paced more than she sat. Michael noticed something else. In the shared drive, a forecasting file had been revised late Monday night. Numbers slightly inflated. Assumptions subtly optimistic. Not wrong enough to raise alarms, but wrong enough to collapse under scrutiny. Foreshadowing tightened. Michael opened his notebook, cross-referencing figures from memory. His pen slowed. Then stopped. Flashback rose quietly. Michael at 22, standing beside his father in a cramped repair shop, watching him inspect an engine that everyone else had already signed off as a fine. Small mistakes, his father said softly, pointing to a barely visible crack, are the ones that cost the most. Back in the office, Michael saved a private copy of the file. He didn't report it. Not yet. At lunch, laughter returned, lighter, careless. Daniel tossed a stress ball at Michael's desk. Hey, genius, you ready for Friday? Or still calculating the meaning of life? More chuckles. Michael smiled thinly. Just checking numbers. Of course you are, Daniel replied, already bored. Foreshadowing lingered in Daniel's tone, dismissive, confident, reckless. That afternoon, Olivia stopped by Michael's desk. Rare. You're staying late again, she asked, not unkindly, but distracted. Yes, Michael said. She hesitated, eyes flicking to his notebook. You always do. He met her gaze for a second longer than usual. Some things take time. She nodded absently and walked away. But later that night, long after the laughter had gone home, Michael remained. The office lights dimmed automatically at 9 p.m. He worked under desk lamps, rebuilding projections line by line. Testing worst-case scenarios. Running numbers backward. The results made his chest tighten. If presented as is, the firm wouldn't just lose the client, they would look incompetent. Flashback deepened. Michael at 19, his scholarship application rejected because someone misread his financial documents. He had known. He had wanted to speak. He hadn't been heard. Not again. At 10:47 p.m., Michael drafted an email. He didn't send it. Instead, he attached his corrected analysis to a secure folder, time-stamped, and waited. Because Michael wasn't preparing to speak. He was preparing for when silence would be unavoidable. And somewhere between the quiet office and the coming presentation, the laughter that followed him every day was edging closer to the moment it would finally stop. Friday arrived too fast. By 8:30 a.m., the main conference room at Creston and Blight Consulting was full. Executives sat straighter. Laptops were aligned perfectly. Coffee cups went untouched. On the far end of the table, the large screen glowed with the first slide of the client presentation. Michael took his usual seat near the back. They laughed at him every day at the office, but this morning, the laughter was muted. Tension had a way of doing that. Daniel stood confidently at the front, remote in hand. We've run the projections multiple times, he said smoothly. Our growth estimates are conservative and reliable. Michael's pen froze. Foreshadowing sharpened. As Daniel clicked through the slides, Michael watched the client representatives more than the screen. He noticed the tightening jaw of the lead investor. They paused before questions. They exchanged glances. Then it happened. A woman at the far end of the table leaned forward. Can you walk us through the assumptions behind Q3 operating margins? Daniel didn't hesitate. He answered quickly, too quickly. Michael felt the familiar pull in his chest. The same feeling he'd had years ago, watching his father sign a contract without reading the fine print. The investor frowned. That doesn't align with the raw data you provided last quarter. Silence. Daniel laughed lightly. Well, markets change. The client didn't smile. Olivia shifted in her chair. We can clarify. Actually, Michael said quietly. Every head turned. The room froze, not because he spoke, but because he spoke. They laughed at him every day at the office, but now, no one laughed at all. I ran an independent scenario analysis, Michael continued, voice steady. Using your original data set. The current assumptions may not hold under conservative stress testing. Daniel stared at him. Michael, this isn't the time. It is, the investor said sharply. Please continue. Micro cliffhanger snapped tight. Michael stood, heart pounding but posture calm. He connected his laptop to the screen. The corrected projections filled the room. Numbers shifted. Margins narrowed. Risk surfaced, clearly, cleanly, undeniably. Flashback hit hard. Michael at 17, presenting a science project no one believed in. The room silent then too, right before applause. Back in the present, the client studied the screen. This, the investor said slowly, is the first honest breakdown we've seen today. Daniel's face drained of color. Olivia's breath caught. Michael finished quietly. I saved the fire 2 days ago. The timestamp appeared. The room stayed silent. No laughter. No whispers. Just the sound of reality landing. And in that silence, something irreversible happened. The balance of the room shifted, and everyone felt it. Because what happened next wouldn't just change Michael's position in the office. It would expose everything the laughter had been hiding. They laughed at him every day at the office, but now, no one seemed able to meet Michael Turner's eyes. The meeting ended without applause, without small talk. The clients left quietly, their decision postponed but no longer uncertain. Everyone in the room knew what had just happened. Disaster had been avoided, but exposure was unavoidable. Daniel was the first to break. What the hell was that? He snapped the moment the doors closed. You undermined the entire presentation. Michael remained standing, laptop still open. I corrected it. Olivia raised a hand, stopping Daniel mid-rant. Her face was pale, not angry, but calculating. Michael, she said slowly, how long did you have that analysis? 2 days, he replied. The room stiffened. Foreshadowing paid off. 2 senior partners exchanged looks. One of them, Mr. Hargreaves, leaned forward. And why wasn't it shared earlier? Michael met his gaze. Because I've shared concerns before. They weren't heard. Silence again, but this time, it carried weight. Flashback surged. Michael at his first job after college, submitting a report warning of supply chain risks. His manager had laughed, patted his shoulder, and told him not to overthink things. 3 months later, the company folded. Back in the present, Daniel scoffed. So you decided to play hero? Michael shook his head. I decided to be accurate. That word, accurate, hung in the air like an accusation. Olivia exhaled. Daniel, step outside. What? He protested. Now. The door closed behind him. Inside the room, the dynamic shifted. For the first time, Michael wasn't in the corner. He was at the center. Mr. Hargreaves folded his hands. You've been here 2 years. Yes. Why haven't we seen work like this before? Michael hesitated. This was the core foundation, the question everything depended on. Flashback deepened, slower now. Michael's father, sick, sitting on the edge of their bed. Promise me something, he had said. Don't let pride make enemies before you're ready. Michael had learned to survive quietly. I have submitted similar analyses, Michael said carefully. They were dismissed. I adjusted. Foreshadowing resolved into clarity. The partners exchanged another look, this one sharper. Olivia turned to him. Why stay late every night? Because details don't reveal themselves during office hours. For the first time, someone smiled, not mockingly, but with respect. The door opened. Daniel re-entered, eyes red, confidence cracked. Effective immediately, Mr. Hargreaves said, Daniel will be removed from lead on the account. Daniel froze. And Michael, he continued, you'll be assisting directly with client revisions. Speechless didn't begin to cover it. Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. They laughed at him every day at the office, but now, the office had nothing to say at all. And as Michael gathered his notebook, still the same one notebook, he felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Not triumph. Recognition. They laughed at him every day at the office, but none of them knew what Michael Turner had already survived before he ever walked into that building. The promotion didn't come immediately. Neither did praise. Instead, Michael was moved, quietly, into a glass-walled office near the conference room. The same room where decisions were made. The same room he used to pass without being noticed. That night, long after everyone else left, Michael sat alone, lights dimmed, notebook open. The silence pulled him backward. Flashback unfolded fully now. Michael was 16 when his mother died. His father took 2 jobs, then 3. Numbers became Michael's refuge, predictable, honest, unforgiving in a way people want. While other kids escaped into games, Michael escaped into patterns, probabilities, and margins of error. At university, he had been brilliant, but invisible. Group projects where his work carried others. Presentations where louder voices claimed credit. He learned early that talent without timing became a target. That lesson followed him into his first corporate job. When he flagged fraud risks, he was told he was negative. When he warned of structural flaws, he was called difficult. When the company collapsed, no one apologized. So when Michael joined Creston and Blight, he made a decision, not born of fear, but strategy. Foreshadowing anchored. He would observe first. Measure people. Learn power flows. And wait. Back in the present, Olivia stood at his door. I read your file, she said quietly. Michael closed his notebook. You have recommendations from people I respect, she continued. But they all say the same thing, you're brilliant but reserved. He didn't correct her. She hesitated. Why didn't you push harder? Michael considered lying. Instead, he said, because when you push too early, they push back harder. That answer landed. The next day, word spread, not loud, not celebratory, but undeniable. People stopped joking around his desk. Meetings slowed when he spoke. Emails asked for his input. Daniel avoided him entirely. Foreshadowing paid again when Michael opened his old notebook and flipped to the first page, dated 2 years earlier. A single line was written there. Wait until the room needs silence. The client returned the following week. This time, Michael led the presentation. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't perform. He explained calmly, clearly, leaving no space for doubt. When questions came, he welcomed them. At the end, the lead investor stood. We'd like Michael Turner assigned permanently to our account. The room froze. Speechless, not from shock now, but from understanding. The laughter that once defined Michael's place in the office had been replaced by something far more dangerous. Respect. And with it came a final reckoning that no one, not even Michael, could avoid. They laughed at him every day at the office, but the day Michael Turner finally spoke with authority, the entire office became a place where silence meant something else. It happened 3 months later. No announcement. No build-up. Just an email sent at 8:02 a.m., marked all staff. Subject, leadership update. People read it once. Then again. By the time Michael arrived, the office no longer sounded the same. Conversations dropped mid-sentence. Chairs stopped rolling. Laughter, real laughter, vanished. He walked past the desks where jokes used to follow him like shadows. This time, heads turned, not to mock, but to watch. Inside the main conference room, the partner stood. Michael took his seat without hesitation. Mr. Hargreaves cleared his throat. As of today, Michael Turner will assume the role of Director of Strategic Risk and Oversight. No applause came. Because no one knew how to react. Daniel sat frozen near the far wall, no longer leading anything. His eyes flicked toward Michael, then away. Months ago, he had laughed every day at the office. Now he couldn't bring himself to speak. Olivia met Michael's gaze and nodded, respect, clean and unspoken. Foreshadowing closed its final loop. Michael stood, not to celebrate, but to speak. I won't pretend this is sudden, he said calmly. I've been preparing for this role since the day I arrived. The room absorbed that. I stayed quiet because I was learning. I listened because I needed to understand. And I waited because timing matters more than talent. Flashback surfaced one last time. His father's voice. Noise fades. Skill doesn't. Michael looked around the room, the same desks, the same walls, the same people who once laughed at him every day at the office. This position doesn't change who I am, he continued. But it does change what we tolerate. No one interrupted. Accuracy over ego. Listening over noise. Respect over ridicule. Silence followed. Not awkward. Not hostile. Earned. After the meeting, people didn't rush out. They stayed seated, processing. A few stood slowly, unsure how to act in a world where the quiet man at the corner desk now shaped their future. Michael returned to his office, the glass-walled one, and placed his old notebook on the shelf. He didn't throw it away. Some lessons weren't meant to be erased. As the day unfolded, work resumed, but the laughter never came back the same way. It couldn't. The office had learned what silence could do. And that was what happened next. Not shouting. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Just one moment of truth that left the entire office speechless, and changed everything forever.